Our first SLX Ontario Leader Talk is Nicole Wong. She's from McMaster. She is a 2017 Schulich Leader enrolled in the Chemical Biology program at McMaster. Nicole is the Vice President Internal for the McMaster Science Society. As an advocate for the STEM field, she strives to prove that science is an approachable field for everyone, not only those studying it, by illustrating that science is truly applicable to all aspects of our everyday lives. Nicole is also very passionate about leadership itself. She's actively working at the university level and beyond to empower young leaders and show them that they have the capacity to make change happen, no matter what type of leader they are. Nicole.
Hi everyone, so my name's Nicole and I have been deemed by society as a leader, as have all of you. But my talk really distills itself down to one question. What is leadership? Now, you may be thinking, and a lot of people think, leadership looks like this. Like one person standing atop of mountains of successes, a single person driving their team to the end of their project. But is this really the only way to look at leadership? So I used to work at the Ontario Educational Leadership Centre. It is basically a 7-day camp where students are there to learn how to empower themselves as leaders through their actions and through the way they choose to lead. And there we have a mantra where that leadership is truly embodied in the actions of many, not just one person. Now, this can be hard for some of us to wrap our heads around with the traditional way that leadership is typically taught. But I want to introduce a new lens. So think of it this way. Everyone has their own way of leading, and each way is valuable. Now, I want you to think of this scenario. Imagine that there are 4 people in a car, and they're driving down the 401, and they come upon an accident. If you live in Toronto, this is not that hard to imagine. And there's a car on fire and there's someone inside. There's a lot of traffic in the area as well and a lot of citizens who are in distress. So the first person jumps out of the car to go drag the person outside and make sure that they're not burning in the car. Second person realizes as they look around that if no one directs traffic, there's the future accidents could occur. So they go to direct these people around. Third person does crowd control. They realize there could be people inside who are injured, who are in shock, or who don't know what's going on, so they go to address the crowd. And the last person in the car does not get out. They do not want to put themselves in that scenario, but they do realize that if no one calls 911, we will have no professional help in order to resolve the scenario. And so collectively, they are able to take care of the situation. Now, here's the real question. In this scenario, who was the leader? Most people will say it's the person who was in the car because they were the first person to take action. But realistically, each person took a leadership role in the task that they pursued. What if no one had called the ambulance? Or no one had directed traffic? Or what if all 3 people decided to go after the person in the car and only one person was left to do crowd control? What would that situation look like? It would have been left very much incomplete. Now, here's the thing. I don't know if you've ever looked up leadership, but I looked up the definition of leadership, and one of the definitions of a leader on Merriam-Webster is a person who leads. It never says it has to be the first person to take action. It never says it has to be the loudest person, the strongest person. It is a person who leads. So while the person who jumped out for the person in the fire was the first person to act, each person was a leader in their own right. Leadership can take many forms, and each form is necessary in order for a situation to be successful. Now, here's the thing. As Schulich leaders, as people in the community who have been tasked with this idea of being structured as leaders, how can we work with those around us to make sure that they're supported as their leadership style, that we're not imposing on them some sort of social mantra that we believe to be leadership? Now, the first thing for us to do is to embrace diversity in leadership styles. Each person has a different way of leading, and just because someone doesn't take on a task the same way you do doesn't mean that it's not valuable. It doesn't mean that they are bringing something else to the table that could help your project succeed. Now, this is the one that I want to spend the most time on, is being willing to take on a new style. As leaders, we can often be set in our own ways, thinking that there's only one way to be a leader. But in reality, the strongest leaders are able to look at their team and figure out what kind of leader they need to be and where they need to be at. Imagine if that car scenario was a project you were working on, or it was an event you were going to run, or let's say it was something you had to propose to your PI at the end of the semester. If you were left on a team without each different kind of leader that was able to cover your scenario and make it successful as a whole, you would be left with problems that wouldn't be resolved. So as leaders, I challenge you to be that person who takes on a new style, the person who is able to look at the situation they have and step out of their comfort zone and be that new type of leader. Because if that project were the burning car situation, your team would come out successful. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, my contact information is up there, as well as the link to the Ontario Educational Leadership Center. Thank you.